Is Dragon's Dogma 2 better than Baldur's Gate 3? Oh wow. Somebody dropped that in the comments of YouTube video. And I had to respond. I did. I gotta respond, guys. Is it better than Baldur's Gate 3? Subjectively, that's going to depend on the individual. I think that some people really love the action combat of this game way more than they like the turn-based combat of Baldur's Gate 3. But I think anytime you start to compare one RPG against another RPG, you're already in a losing battle because some things just don't translate, because not everything is objective. Some things are highly subjective when it comes to things like combat style and pacing and everything else. One thing I do love about this game is the lantern system, which I think is awesome. Yeah, you have lights and torches and everything else in Baldur's Gate 3, but that. So I think one of the main differences is obviously the combat style between these two games. So there's not a clear winner. It just depends. Do you prefer turn-based combat, or do you prefer action-based combat? Now, I prefer turn-based. So for me, Baldur's Gate 3 is always going to win the day when it comes to the style of combat that I prefer. Oh, they all turn their... I guess I never paid attention to the fact that they all turn their lanterns on at the same time. That's kind of cool.
Come to think of it...
Nice.
Is your pack not overburdensome? You carry...
I don't want to listen to their bark. What next? Narrative experience. This is night and day, guys. There is no narrative experience in Dragon's Dogma 2. It is a very much generic fantasy RPG. Your pawns who are talking right now,
So much, I worry for your poor spine.
they repeat
It certainly isn't easy work, but
the
I'm
same
proud
shit
to be counted upon.
over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It gets annoying really fast. There is no...
I knew you loved this world too much to leave it
I don't.
behind.
This is an annoying feature, by the way. Pawns should not approach me all day. It's like if you're on the road and somebody walks by, they just immediately run up and want to, like, solicit you. It's annoying. Anyway, narrative-wise, you can't compare the two. And I'm going to say objectively, the narrative in Baldur's Gate 3 is vastly superior to the narrative experience in Dragon's Dogma 2. But again, Dragon's Dogma 2, I feel, is more of a... Its primary strength lies in the combat system. And the action combat of this game, and the way that you have the pawns helping you and being able to do things like yeet things off of cliffs and everything else. The action combat is the draw here, not necessarily the narrative. So
Master,
I think we can
out.
say with
Mightn't
objective,
we have a rest before pressing
from an
on?
objective point of view, that the narrative experience in Baldur's Gate 3 is vastly better. Their actors spent a very long time in mocap and performance, just doing all the performance capturing and voicing. So they were
It's
there,
about time we
and all the
pressed
extras,
on, wouldn't you say,
like
Master?
everything that went into creating the narrative experience of Baldur's Gate 3 is light years beyond what this game has in terms of that experience. This is not a cinematic storytelling game. This is an action RPG. It's completely different. So there's that to consider. The writing, the one thing that's very frustrating for myself and a lot of other people is if you listen to the way they talk in Dragon's Dogma 2, it's very antiquated, and it's a if you don't like it, it's kind of grating. It definitely annoys me when everyone's talking Shakespearean Old English. It's like, yeah, it's cute for the first few minutes, and then it gets really old after that, because it's just like, thou needest this thingy from von yonder cave. Shut up.
Come to think of it...
Just tell me to go get something from the
Private
cave.
quarters of one arisen I served had many of visitors.
Beyond that,
Now there's a thought.
there are little details in this game. I would say that when you look at the exploration of oops, wrong button. The exploration between Baldur's Gate 3 and Dragon's Dogma 2 when it comes to just exploring and finding random things around the map. I would say that both of those do this in equal measures in terms of allowing there to be places off the beaten path that you can go explore. So finding caves and ruins and things of that nature, and those are definitely in both games. So the exploration value is there for a lot of people. However, I will also say that one thing I can say with objective clarity is that the map size for Dragon's Dogma 2, while it is, it's not bad. It's not bad. Baldur's Gate 3 is vastly, vastly larger. It's so much larger in terms of just sheer size of zones and the experience that you're going to get out of the zones that you go to, and going off the beaten path and finding things you can just not even do the mountain pass if you want to do that, or you can not even do the Underdark. You can choose one or the other in Act 1, and each one of those areas represents anywhere from, I would argue, 30 to 50 hours of gameplay if you fully explore each corner of the map, and that's just not here. The main storyline for Dragon's Dogma 2 is about 30 hours long. The main storyline in Baldur's Gate 3 is about 70 hours long. That's sort of the minimum without gimmicking and speed running or doing things like that. So when you look at, it takes 30 minutes to complete this game, 30 hours to complete this game, it takes 70 hours to complete this game. The size difference and what you're going to get out of it in terms of time is much different. Now, you can absolutely get 100+ hours in Dragon's Dogma 2 if you want to explore every nook and cranny, walk everywhere, don't use the ox carts, don't use your port crystals, force yourself to not use any form of fast travel and just wander without a horse or anything like that, and you're just wandering the realm. You can extend this into a 100+ hour experience, especially with the way the New Game Plus mode works and being able to go in and just keep going. The max level in this game is 999. So if you want to grind the same map over and over and over and over and over through multiple playthroughs, fine, sure, you can get 300 hours out of a gameplay playthrough here. But when it comes to that, looking at Baldur's Gate 3, a lot of people, I know my first playthrough was 115 hours there, and here it was 30 and a half hours. So that just shows you the comparison. By the way, Starfield, I had 350 hours in Starfield when I finished, and I was in the 150-hour ballpark with Cyberpunk 2077 after Phantom Liberty. I'm no stranger to doing huge playthroughs in games, and there just wasn't anything. There wasn't enough in Dragon's Dogma 2 in terms of main storyline when you compare to Baldur's Gate 3, and then in terms of sheer size, everything else. Yeah, there's a lot more going on with Baldur's Gate 3. I think I said Baldur's Gate 2. I meant Baldur's Gate 3. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. Whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's early and I haven't had coffee, and there may have been medication. Fun factor. They're both fun. I liked Dragon's Dogma 2. There were things I didn't like about it, but overall it was a fun experience. Baldur's Gate 3 was also a fun experience. I realized the reason people ask me that question is because a lot of people came to my channel for Baldur's Gate 3 and have stuck around watching me play other games, which I appreciate. That's how you build an audience, and it's great that people have stuck with me through other games and follow along for the whole journey, not just one title. But it also is a mirror by which many people try to reflect all other games. And while I think that that's an interesting point for conversations like what we're doing here, at the end of the day, I think it's important to realize that a lot of games come down to personal choice. And I think that there are some highly subjective things like, do I like action combat or do I like turn-based combat? You can't say that one is better than the other, because they're it just depends on personal preference. But you can look at things like size of the map and size of the zones and say, objectively speaking, Baldur's Gate 3 is much bigger and offers much more in terms of exploration and completionist stuff. I mean, 17,000 different, permutations. That there's a lot more there than what Dragon's Dogma 2 has to offer. So, from an objective standpoint, you can look at little things like that and say, well, that definitely puts that into a different category compared to this game. I think at the end of the day, looking at these two games, I had fun playing them both, but they were both definitely different experiences. Like, I have no compulsion to go through and do a second playthrough of Dragon's Dogma 2, at least not anytime soon. The first playthrough was enough. I'm doing New Game Plus to just clear some things that I want to see to make my guides and stuff. Whereas with Baldur's Gate 3, very much, excited to dive back in a second, third, fourth, fifth time, make 6 different characters, spending all that time in early access. There was a lot more to it for me when it comes to, the RPG component that I really like, which is the storytelling and the narrative and everything else. And that's just something where not every game is going to do cinematic storytelling. And that's another example here, so that's a personal preference thing, but also in terms of a storytelling tool, if you have two games that are trying to tell a story and one uses lots of animations and cutscenes and cinematics and the other one doesn't, people are going to gravitate towards the one that gives them that cinematic storytelling experience because it is objectively bigger and better. Now, it has to be well done for it to be better. So that's a key component here. So, there are great points to look at between both of these games. I think that it's an interesting conversation to have. So when people pop those questions, it's great for traffic. So it's great. It's good to put these videos out. If for nothing else, then it pays my bills. But it also, it's a good conversation point for the things that we take away from games. But it's also important to understand at the end of the day that it doesn't really matter because they're just video games. So everybody's going to have what they consider to be game of the year, game of the decade, favorite game of their life, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. So that's cool. It's the way life is. Some people like peanut butter and mayonnaise. I do not. Don't get mayonnaise anywhere near my peanut butter sandwiches, guys. And anchovies are awesome, especially on pizza. See you next time. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Patreon, Discord, Twitch.